So now I'm going to talk about overcoming fear of change. Any time that you face a decision to do something different with your life, whether it's to reach a new goal, to stop a habit, or to solve some sort of a problem, the result is that you are making a change. And change can be scary. In fact, change is one of the biggest things that people fear. Humans are security and comfort-seeking beings, and anything that pushes us outside of our comfort zone is viewed as a threat by our brain. And so most people resist change, understandably. And this is really important to understand because you might get to a point where you're ready to make that decision to change, but then you don't actually do it. And the reason is that there is a common and predictable change cycle that you can get trapped in if you don't know what to look out for. And I know because I recognized this in my own life, which led me to develop this process. So when you're facing a change that you might find that you're cycling back and forth between inspiration in one moment and resistance the next, and you're certain about what you want, you're determined, but then you find yourself either terrified or somehow you've magically forgotten all about this thing that you wanted, and you find yourself right back where you started, stuck. So you may have been experiencing going through the cycle over and over and over again on the same issue at some point in your life. And the truth is that it will continue to happen until you stop the cycle. And so here's what that cycle looks like. The first stage is your discontent. You grow increasingly unhappy and discontent with an area of your life. You hang in there. You tolerate, ignore, repress, or otherwise deal with the circumstance because it's comfortable and familiar and you fear change. But then the second stage is a breaking point. Eventually, your level of discontent builds high enough that you just can't take it anymore. You reach a breaking point, and this can either be through exhaustion or due to some sort of dramatic event occurring that triggers your break. So then the third stage is decision. You decide that you're ready to change, and you even declare that you're no longer going to tolerate this undesirable situation. And you take that first step towards changing, giving you a short-lived sense of hope. But then the fourth step comes immediately, which is fear. So usually, shortly or immediately after the feelings of empowerment, when you make that decision, you encounter this fear. You become uncomfortable and anxious about the idea of changing. You doubt your decision. Both of your options look bleak. You feel helpless and empty. So then, the fifth stage is amnesia. The fear of change grows strong enough that it makes the original situation that you're trying to get away from actually look better than you had originally thought. You perceive this original situation as less anxiety producing than the change itself. And so it's because you're used to it. It's comfortable. It's familiar. Plus, in a lot of cases, it's become part of your identity. So you resist letting it go. You temporarily forget why you even wanted to change so badly in the first place. And so the sixth stage is backtracking. Most people choose to go back to or stick with the item that they originally wanted to change. Ultimately, you essentially talk yourself out of changing. So you probably relate to this, at least for something in your life. And inevitably, you're soon going to find yourself unhappy and discontent again. Your level of pain is going to continue to increase until you reach another breaking point. And then that next one is going to be even more extreme and more painful. And this cycle will just continue and continue until one of two things happens. The first thing that can happen is an extreme level of pain. You might end up having a breaking point that is so severe that it actually pushes you through this change cycle. So for many people, unfortunately, it takes an extreme circumstance to push them to evolve, such as a major financial loss, loss of a job, loss of a loved one, the ending of a relationship, a severe accident, or a complete nervous breakdown. You see, your higher self knows what you really want and is trying to lead you to it. That's why it keeps coming up. So if you resist changing long enough, something is going to happen in your life that will put you in a position where you have no choice but to change. You do not need to wait until there's a flood to move your home away from the shoreline. So just keep that in mind. Because the second option here that can stop the cycle is self-honesty. In some cases, you will actually have that humbling experience of realizing that there's a part of you that doesn't actually want to change. You're comfortable with your habit, with what you know. You have a lot of fear that holds you back. You have a lot of self-limiting beliefs. You receive some sort of benefit from staying stuck where you are. You are unhappy because part of you wants to be unhappy. In fact, you're addicted to the situation. You believe your pain is who you are. It's your story. You can see your resistance to letting it go. And only after reaching this point where you can see all of this, honestly, can you truly choose to change? Now, can you see how this change cycle has impacted your life? And are you ready to stop it? Have you experienced change amnesia before? And if so, you know that the more that you move towards the changes that you are afraid of, then often the more strong your fear and resistance will become. So, are you ready to swallow the pill of self-honesty, even if it's hard, because you're tired of being dissatisfied? Are you ready to take responsibility for your life and create the life you dream of having? And are you at that point where you will accept nothing less than what you truly want? Because in order to be able to break the cycle, you also need to understand the underlying reasons why you've been allowing yourself to keep avoiding change. And those are, 1, you don't want to change, like I mentioned. You don't really want the thing that you think you want. You might be trying to convince yourself to change to appease others or to conform to what you believe you should do. So if you don't want to change, accept it. This is very common for people who say that they want to quit smoking, for instance. They don't really want to quit. They simply think that they should. And in that situation, it never works because you have to want it. So another thing that might be going on is you don't know what you want. If you don't know what you really want, or you're not allowing yourself to think about what you really want because you don't think you can have it, that can really stop you from doing anything. So you end up thinking that you want certain things that aren't what you really want, and the deeper part of yourself knows it. And you're never going to feel inspired enough to follow through on making a big change in your life if it isn't even what you want. So try imagining what you would want if time, money, and other people did not limit you, and start there. So that leads me to the next thing that might be holding you back. Maybe your dream isn't big enough. The reward isn't big enough. You're not excited about it. Passion is what makes you willing to endure what it takes to attain a goal. What would you do anything to attain? That's a good place to start too. And another thing that might be holding you back is you're letting your fear be bigger than you. It's because you don't believe you can do it. You don't trust yourself. You put everyone else before yourself. You'd rather tolerate severe pain than face temporary discomfort. So, are you really willing to settle? Isn't the fear of being stuck in a life you don't want and missing out on your dreams more painful than the temporary experience of having to change? So, another thing that could hang you up is being attached to your problem. Your ego and identity are wrapped up in your problem, and you fear that if you let go of your problem, you'll have nothing to talk about. What would you be? Would it be better? The truth is, you're probably benefiting from your problem. The benefit you're receiving from not changing is being perceived as bigger than the perceived benefit of changing. If it gives you an excuse and something to talk about, it allows you to hide deeper issues from yourself and others. So, what are you holding on to? And how does it benefit you not to make this change? Again, it's about self-honesty. And failure no longer has to be an option. And neither does doing nothing and staying stuck where you are. If you're facing a potential change that's nagging at you to be made, take some time in self-reflection and be brutally honest with yourself. Is your desire for more, for fulfillment, for happiness finally strong enough that you are willing to encounter the obstacle and endure the fear? If so, congratulations. You will succeed because you're ready to break the cycle of the fear of change.